We're looking this way. Okay.
Aren't you going to put us where you want us to go?
Nope, let's see. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And you did a really nice job of putting yourself in a good spot all by yourself. So I didn't mean to do that this time. I could see that you got into circle at reading time and you did a really nice job doing that. You weren't moving around and being all antsy and antsy for pantsy. You just kind of sat down. Yeah, that does rhyme with it. You sat down and you did what you were supposed to do. So I was talking to Ms. Medford. And she told me that you guys had written some poetry, or that you talked about poetry. And I know that you remember when you were in kindergarten, you did science eyes, right? And so you had to observe. You had in pre-K, right? In pre-K, and you had to observe things, right? You had to observe some things. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to read a poem that is by a very famous poet.
Emily Dickinson.
Very famous poem. You're right, it is Emily Dickinson, but I'm going to let you know that Emily Dickinson, yes, she's a very famous poem. And this poem was one that I hadn't read, but when I found out that it was part of the lesson, I went and found it, and I printed it out, and I read it, and I thought about it. I really thought about this poem. So now I'm going to ask that you both, or you all both, there's more than two, that you all think about this poem too. First thing I'm going to do is I want to read it to you. And as I'm reading it to you, I'm going to ask something. I don't usually ask this, but I'm going to ask that you close your eyes and you try to imagine what I'm reading, okay? But we're going to close our eyes and we're going to not move around. We're not moving our heads all around and spinning. Sir, I can handle it. Promise. All right? So close those eyes while I read this poem. The grass has so little to do. The grass has so little to do. A sphere of simple green with only butterflies to brood and bees to entertain. And stir all day to pretty tunes the breezes fetch along and hold the sunshine in its lap and bow to everything. And thread the dews all night like pearls and make itself so fine, a duchess were too common for such a noticing. And even when it dies, to pass in odor so divine, like lowly spices laid to sleep, or spikenards perishing. And then in sovereign barns to dwell, and dream the days away. The grass so little has to do, I wish I were a hay. Okay, so maybe you all are listening to that and you're like, I didn't understand one thing that old Emily Dickinson said. I didn't understand one thing that old Emily Dickinson said. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what, I know what grass is, but the rest of the poem, who feels like that? Raise your hand if you feel like I have no idea what she's talking about. Even when I closed my eyes, it didn't make a difference. It didn't help me see anything. Did you see anything? You were just like, I see nothing. I see breakfast. Oh, that's good.
I saw butterflies.
Oh, I did say butterflies. So you saw butterflies. That's good.
I saw a horse.
You saw bees. What did you see?
I saw a horse. I just saw plain grass.
That's interesting. You saw plain grass. Good. So you did see some. Some people might not have seen anything. Some people saw some things. But what I'd like to do now is I'd like to pick out the words that maybe we don't know. So I'm going to do those in red, those stock words that we just don't know. So when I read a word, I want you to stop me not by calling out, but just by raising your hand if you don't know what that word really means. The grass so little has to do. A sphere of simple green. Yeah, I kind of thought that might be one of the.
I know what is a spear.
Good, but we're going to talk about that later. With only butterflies to brood, right? And bees to entertain. And stir all day. Stir? Not sure what stir means? Stir all day to pretty tune. The breezes fetch along. Fetch, right? What's fetch? And hold the sunshine in its lap and bow to everything. And thread the dews. Oh yeah, what's that? Dews? Yeah, what is that? all night like pearl, oh thread also, and make itself so fine, a duchess.
Duchess. It's a noun.
Words, it is a noun, were too common for such a noticing. And even, noticing?
No, common.
Oh, common. And even when it dies, to pass in odors so divine. Yes.
Odors.
Odors.
Odors and dyes.
Odor.
You know what dyes odor? It's a smell.
Well, we're talking about that, you're right. But because somebody said they didn't know we didn't do this.
And
like,
divine? What does divine mean?
Oh, divine, okay, that's
Odors
good, I
and
like
divine
that.
smells good.
Like lowly spices lain to sleep. Lain. Or spikenards perishing.
Spikenards are perishing.
And then in sovereign barns to dwell. Sovereign, what is that? Yes.
Sovereign.
And dream the days away. Dwell, okay.
Dwell.
And dream the days away. The grass so little has to do. I wish I were a hay.
What's hay?
Okay, okay.
No!
All right. So here we go. Now I'm going to prove.
I already know. I was playing. Sorry.
I'm going to prove to you that you probably know a lot of these words. So I heard someone say, I don't want you to call out, raise your hand. I heard someone say, I know what a spear is. Yes.
A spear is a sticker with a steel on the top and
steel point.
A steel point.
I know what you're talking about. That kind of sounds like it. That's not a spear. That has another name.
Oh!
Spear, yes.
It's like the shape of the moon.
It's like almost like a circle. It's not quite a circle, but it's what's that?
It's a three-dimensional.
It is a three. Don't call out Brian. You're right. It's a three-dimensional shape, and it's kind of like
a ball.
It's kind of like. Sit back, please. A circle. So did anybody? Excuse me. Hold on one second. Did anybody know?
Or sphere.
Anybody know that yes? What's the matter? Can you wait about 10 minutes while we do this lesson? And then, okay, good. Thank you. So a sphere, it's very interesting. We think a grass is thin, flat, but some grass is a sphere, and it actually is almost like a tube. So she's talking about a sphere of simple grass. Or maybe she's talking about all the grass on the earth, maybe?
A spear.
Yeah,
I know what a spear is.
I need you to come right over here, so that you're not right in anybody's face, because you're, there you go, perfect. And yeah, they're all looking, but you know what? I'm going to be so interesting that they're not going to pay attention to you, they're going to pay attention to me. So if you want to do that and not pay attention, you go ahead. But I think that I've got a good group of kids who are going to be looking at me and not at you right now. You can entertain them another time. How about that? Okay. With only butterflies to brood. So brood, I can tell you that brood, I'm going to go down to the nurse. Dismiss Medford, give you a pass.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
No,
Okay.
I know.
She
didn't need one
knows where the
though.
nurse is. You go ahead down to the nurse and get your Band-Aid, but could I ask you to come back ASAP?
Yes.
Okay.
What is that? SP?
As soon as possible. ASAP. I can handle it. ASAP. Okay. Ready? With only butterflies to brood. Yes.
The brood means that there's a circle with petals on there. No, I think so.
That's a good thought, but brood, the word brood, actually, you know what it means?
It means only to watch.
To brood. Brooding that's very, very good. Brooding is kind of, when you brood, it's a word that kind of means when you're sitting around brooding, it's kind of like you're silent, you're not talking. It's kind of almost like thinking, like you're contemplating things, you're thinking about something. Yeah, there you go. That's a good brooding face. You're like this.
Wait, have you ever?
And you're just kind of thinking. So with only butterflies to think about. Ooh, so brooding means think. Okay, let me put that up here, think, if we know that word now. And then it has in bees to entertain and stir all day to pretty tunes. Now, some people stir. Yeah, we know that word stir, like stir the pot, right? And so when you're stirring something, are you sitting still? Are you sitting still?
No.
You're moving, right? So it stirs all day to pretty tunes. So when you sit in your seat, if I say, oh, sit in your seat and don't you stir, that means don't what?
Move.
Does grass move?
Yes.
It blows in the wind. So this says, look at that, we figured out this part of the poem. And stir all day to pretty tunes, the breezes fetch along. What do you do with the dog when you throw the bone? You say go?
Fetch. You catch it.
So what does that mean? To go
Catch the
get something. So you knew what fetch meant. And when it says the breezes fetch along, that means that there's music in the wind and the grass
And you catch this.
moves to it. You catch the sound.
It's dancing. It's dancing.
It's dancing.
My
Exactly. The grass is dancing. It's stirring. Exactly.
Poet's eyes.
That's poet's eyes. The grass is dancing. She didn't say the grass is